This is the McCracken County Fiscal Court meeting, May 9, 5 p.m., Courtroom D, McCracken County Courthouse. And Ms. Potts, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Jones?
I'm here.
Commissioner Parker?
Here.
Commissioner Bartleman?
Here.
And Judge Clymer?
Here. Commissioner Bartleman, you offer our prayer, please.
Father, we thank you for the blessings of this day. We thank you for the opportunity we have to serve. We just pray you be with us as we make decisions, that they will benefit the county and be good in your life. Father, we're thankful for all those who work for the county, for the first responders who keep us safe. We're so thankful for them, and we just pray you give them safety as they perform their duties. We're just so thankful for what you do for us. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Draw me in the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. One matter to take up before we get into the agenda, a day that I have regretted seeing come, hope it wouldn't come until maybe I was leaving office, but my very, very long time, very, very professional assistant, Vicki Potts, has submitted her letter of resignation. She's going to move on to other things. She's written a very nice letter. She was with me for many years when I was a circuit judge. Been with me and us, taking care of us for our tenure here on the court. Vicki's one of those people that just the ultimate professional. What I tell people is she actually knows what I want to do before I want to do it generally, and she will sometimes suggest, do you think, sir, that you might want to write a letter to so-and-so, or do you think you might do this or do that? And I said, yeah, I guess I need to do that. She said, well, see if this is sufficient. And there's the letter, and I don't even need to look at it, I just need to sign it. And so we're going to miss you, Vicki. She's not leaving until July 29, so we're going to get some more work out of her yet. And we're on the search for replacing her. We will find somebody to take her place, but not anyone to replace her.
Oh, thanks.
Well, I would like to publicly ask you to change your mind and stay. You don't have to answer right now. You can think about it. I'd like it if you stay.
Thank you for the consideration.
You have been taking care of Judge Clymer most of my career when I've been asking him for things. We were practicing law together.
I guess we have the end of July to talk her into it, right? Made a rough couple of months on you, Vicki.
We'll be really nice every day, and we'd like you to stay. Okay.
A lot of ham and cheese sliders.
There you go.
There you go. See, we found her.
All right. We need a motion to approve the...
It is ordered to approve the consent agenda for the May 9th, 2022 McCracken County Fiscal Court.
So made.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
No.
No?
No.
All right, what?
No, just no.
Just no.
Yeah. I don't need to explain it.
All right. All right, so the motion's approved, passes. Budget transfers.
It is ordered that the necessary cash transfers in the amount of $105,000 be made in order to pay county bills and payroll approved May 9th, 2022.
So made.
Second.
Any discussion?
Aye.
Opposed, no. That carries. Accounts payable.
It is ordered to approve the vouchers claims register from April 25th, 2022 to May 9th, 2022 to show county bills in the amount of $644,915.30 were paid.
So made.
Second. Did those dates read the same as y'all's?
There was an error in my typing.
Okay, all right. So
Pam read the correct date.
gotcha, all right.
Probably the computer screwed up some way.
I'm sure it wasn't Vicky, yeah.
Sorry I brought it up. Please stay.
Nice job.
All right, then we have under discussion 911.
Sir,
Yes.
you've not yet taken the vote on the account.
Oh, I did not. Okay. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That carries. All right. Under discussion, 911 update. And we have Dr. Smith here and Neil Kernard. Y'all want to double team, or you want to? How you want to? You can choose how you want to go. Whatever's your pleasure.
Well, since February, the 911 Advisory Committee meeting group has been meeting every 2 weeks. We've tackled 4 questions in parallel. First of all, we've listened to our consultants and our local lead operational folks explain why we need to upgrade the system. We've looked at how we could fund the system, just the regular operations on an ongoing basis. We've gotten a lot of input from Stacy Blankenship, who's researched a lot of legal aspects that have gone on through the state. We've looked at different options. This company, Federal Communications, is a big radio consulting company out of, I think, Virginia or somewhere northeast. And that they gave us about an 86-page document with their recommendations. And we're at the point that we need to actually get some proposals from these manufacturers, from the radio companies, and that's where this request for this RFP comes in. In my simple explanation of it, this Federal Communications folks, they're going to serve as our general contractor, and the cost, the next step with them is that they will put together this RFP based on their recommendations. The bids will come in. They'll help us sort out the bids. Then the city county government will choose who's going to put the system together for us, and then federal will make sure that they carry out their contractual obligations moving forward. The big cost of this system is these towers that will need to make the 800 megahertz system operational. That's a big cost item there.
Dr. Smith, I serve on that committee with you, and it has been meeting almost every 2 weeks since the beginning of the year. The price that has been batted around, and it's a ballpark price, is between 10 and 12 million.
Yes, sir.
And that's the difference between the 10 and the 12 million is whether we're going to do a 5th tower or a 6th tower.
Yes.
And I guess we've received quite a bit of evidence, or at least discussion. I'm not sure I would call it evidence just yet, that the present
Information.
the present system can't be ignored, shouldn't be ignored. It would be a violation of our public duty to continue to ignore it. Is that consistent with what you felt in that meeting?
Sure. Yes. And my concern from being a 35-year responder with fire and EMS out in the county, and also with the Sheriff's Department, is that we put together a system that's going to work for that individual law enforcement officer or firefighter that's out working as far as the dispatch center working, things working in vehicles, I'm pretty sure that's going to be fine. But why these towers are needed is we need to ensure that individual officer, whether it be fire or law enforcement, can make his radio work when they need help or they need to communicate information. So that's why those number of towers need to be there. And my friend here, Neil, he won't say he's an expert in radio systems, but Neil's the expert in radio systems. So I'm gonna let him talk about it, and maybe he can answer some more technical questions. I know how to turn the radio on and hit the mic and make it work.
Before you turn it over, I did want to make that point. So as a public person coming, or just as a private person coming in, I view 911. All right, this is what I call to get an ambulance when so-and-so is having a medical emergency in my house. That's not the expensive part. The expensive part is making sure the volunteer fire department individual who has entered a building somewhere, he's in contact with the 911 center and other officers, right?
Right. And it's a dual, it's the folks over 911, they are the ultimate first responders, other than a bystander in the public that sees something and maybe initiates some sort of care, some sort of action. But our 911 dispatchers, they are the public's first contact with the system. Just critical. But again, my concern is that the system that we put together is going to work for our first responders who are working out in the field.
And part of this, just so the public understands, if they watch this, we tease about the fact that we've got between 3 and 17 viewers most of the time. But you mentioned 800 megahertz, and Neil, it may be better for Neil to answer this, why we're concerned about 800 megahertz, and I assume we're not at 800 megahertz today.
Well, right now our system is kind of split between the 800 megahertz system that city fire, city police, county sheriffs are on, are the 5 county fire departments, and Mercy Regional EMS. They're still on the VHF system. So I think moving forward, our plan would be to get all the county fire departments on the 800 megahertz system as well.
All right, I'll let you tag Neil.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming, Neil.
Well, I'm Neil Crenard. I've been a technician communications for 41 years, recently retired, and have been asked by the county emergency management director to come in as a deputy director for communications for emergency management. Basically, I was just helping him take inventory on what he had, and then it kind of snowballed from there. But I've been around for, again, 41 years. I've been one of the technicians that have kept 911 and a lot of the communication systems in Paducah, McCracken County, in the area operating in service for many years. So I'm not an expert, as I say. I just tell you what I know. The system that you have right now, and I'm not sure what all questions you have about your proposals, but one of the questions that was asked the other day, I'd attended my first meeting as an observer for the 911 committee, and I explained to Dr. Smith and Commissioner Jones the reason and what the purpose is of the multiple towers. For example, the state police, and this is just an example, in McCracken County, have one primary tower site that they use to communicate with their vehicles. And the reason for that is it's located out on Coleman Road on the Kentucky Educational Television Tower. Now, the state police use high-power mobile radios in their vehicles. And as long as the vehicle will talk to the tower and communicate with the tower, and the vehicle can hear the tower, that's all the state really needs for KSP. Now, they do carry portable radios, handheld radios. Their handheld radio talks to the car through what they call a vehicular repeater. So to communicate on their portables, they will talk on their portable. It goes to the car and is relayed through the car to the tower site, and vice versa. What comes from the tower site then comes through the vehicle and goes back to the portable. There's advantages to that, and I don't know if any of that proposal that you've received has that information in it. That's some of the things that the engineers have talked about. Only issue with that is that you are restricted to your portable pretty much. If you want to talk to that tower site, that portable has to talk to the car, and that's a limited distance. So that's why they only need one tower. Now, the reason they're proposing multiple towers in Paducah and McCracken County,
because they're always, we see them, they're always with a car.
they're with their cars.
Yeah.
That's correct. They're not more than a quarter mile from their car unless they just happen to get away. But if you get too far away from the car, the portable at best would talk to another portable if there had to be one on site with them. In Paducah and McCracken County, law enforcement, emergency services, their portables and mobiles talk currently to the tower either downtown or a tower that's out in the county. They are two separate towers, two separate systems that are not interconnected. Where you get into the multiple tower sites, and that's what your expense is that you're looking more like cell phones. For example, cell phone companies put up towers every 5 to 10 miles, and even still don't have 100% coverage even at that. But the idea being is that in Paducah and McCracken, you want this walkie-talkie to talk directly to a tower and not be reliant on a vehicle. Instance like that, one of the proposed groups that have come in are wanting to do equestrian rescue. In other words, you'll send people out on horseback out through wherever. All they're going to have is a radio. They're going out through the woods or down in places where they're not going to be near a vehicle. They need a radio. Their radio needs to talk directly to the tower. So that's why that they're proposing additional towers. And I've been a proponent for that because back before I retired, I had got several emails, phone calls, and texts, including at midnight, from one of the engineers. And I argued with them. I said, we need the coverage because there are places that we have dead spots in the county that even, in fact, we even had an incident a couple of years ago where even one of the deputies' mobiles would not reach. He ended up having to talk to the tower downtown by physically changing channels on his radio. So the system that they're proposing is a multiple tower system. The towers are interconnected, and it's also what they call simulcast, which I won't get into the details, but basically all the towers are transmitting. So pretty much any of the radios that are used on the system can hear. The issue being is that base station out on that tower may be able to reach the mobiles or the portables, and you may be able to hear. But this portable, where you may have a 100-watt radio like for Kentucky State Police in their mobile unit, you're going to have a low power. Your portable is only does, especially at 800, does 3 watts. Even your cell phones on their systems are only 0.6 of a watt. But they've got to be able to reach that tower, and they've got to make the same distance from the tower to the radio. The radio has to make the same travel distance to the tower. So you've got to have enough lines of communications. They need to be close enough to a tower to where the portable radios will work, especially when you're in buildings and in situations where a firefighter crawling through a building or a police officer that's getting shot at. He wants to make sure that whenever he keys the push to talk on his radio, he knows he's got communications with somebody. So
it was suggested to me after our last meeting that the 800 megahertz is a shorter wave length, which allows you to transmit more data and receive more data, but doesn't travel as far as the existing wavelength because it's longer.
Each frequency band, you mentioned VHF on the ambulance, the lower frequencies may tend to travel farther. But
It's
as
kind
they
of like
used to-
AM and FM radio.
and even depending on the frequency, for example, lower frequencies don't penetrate through buildings. I don't know if you all ever remember driving under a bridge listening to the AM radio, and suddenly you drive under that bridge and the radio dies. Where the higher in frequency you go, two things, you also get away from interference because you're not getting as much interference. You get a weather front moving through, changes in the atmospheric conditions that will cause signals to propagate. And suddenly, I know in some cases, we used to listen on 39.5, which was the old frequency for Livingston County Police, and we would hear California coming in a lot of times with weather fronts, and you get those interference. You even have some of that at 800 megahertz. And also, let me add this, we're talking 800 and 700 because what they've done, the FCC has opened up a portion of the 700 megahertz band on that. So it'll be a combination 700 and 800 megahertz in case you hear that. But all they've done is expanded frequencies. And because of the crowding on frequencies, especially lower frequencies, that you want to get up in higher frequencies, whereas you get away as from as much interference as you can, more in building and out of vehicle penetration, that sort of thing. So I hope that clarifies it.
It does for me. It's not a fascinating subject to me, but it's a necessary subject to me, and I hope I haven't. Hope I've been entertaining with our cross-examination here, but.
I noticed you didn't say Mercy was gonna be, are they gonna be on the new?
Well, I really don't, I don't know. I can't, I'm not, I'm not the medical director at Mercy anymore. I've kind of turned that over to Dr. Bechtel and Dr. Freeman. Their situation with Mercy is that all their surrounding area ambulance services are on the VHF radio system. Hospitals on the VHF radio system. So in order for them to be on this 800 system, they would need a second radio in the truck. So, but I couldn't answer that for sure. We'd have to get Chief Jeffrey here from Mercy to answer that question. But they do so much mutual aid with other counties in that they're the supplier of mutual aid to other counties, and pretty much everybody in this area is on VHF for the EMS services.
So are we looking at physically building new towers?
They're proposing additional towers. They're going to use what existing towers I think there are. I'm not sure exactly what they're planning on. I do know they're talking about, they call it a green site, where they go in and start from the ground up and put some of those sites in.
You know how many of those are?
I don't know how many total sites.
I believe. Let's see, Mr. Jones, help me remember this. But I believe on that document that on that plan that Federal gave us, the one green site was out at on 45 South at Lonoke Station 3. That was going to be a new site that's going to need to be developed, and I think the rest of the sites were existing places. I think that's correct.
And I guess there was the difference between the 5 and the 6 tower is rehabbing the downtown tower,
yes,
so that we have better penetration in the downtown districts through the structures.
That was one of my concerns, and we did do some coverage surveys in downtown buildings to kind of rest assured for me, because again, they were asking me about sites and whatnot. And for me personally, I've been a firefighter, I've been an emergency responder, and I've been around folks who've been in law enforcement. As your judge, you know what it's like to be getting shot at. And it's the person who is needing that communication on the public safety side, and then the person who is needing help is hoping that responder can get help to them as quick as possible, and good communications is a big part of that. One thing about the VHF and the other frequency bands, they do make, and I'm not sure how the proposal is, they do make in these particular type of radios, you can get these where that, for example, the emergency managers has acquired a couple that will do VHF, UHF, and 800, 700 in the same radio. They're more expensive, but again, you'll look at the needs between each department, for example. The county fire, this one, for example, has got county fire VHF, and, for example, the city of Paducah 800 trunking system in the same radio. The price is higher, but they do have the expanded capability.
Thank you.
Did I hear you say that then we're looking at the possibility of just having to build one tower in addition to what exists now? Or did I get that wrong?
One great site.
One brand new site, but I think all the existing towers would need to be upgraded.
Yeah.
To use that term,
There's
there'd be
some
an
structural
upgrade,
issues.
some structural issues, but as for a brand new site, that site out on 45 is identified as a brand new site.
But you make a good point, Judge, because the estimate ballpark of 10 to 12 based on towers, but yet there seems to be quite a difference between where we're starting at with regard to tower location. And I need more help from federal engineering, and I guess that's what this RFP will give us, is what's the cost of this tower, what's the cost of that tower, and all through the 6 towers. But
One of the things you want to also look at that is compatibility with other services. Again, are you still wanting to have compatibility and even possibly a joint venture with the state police, if I understand? Of course, I've not seen the proposals. But one of the issues, for example, they put a new system of a different manufacturer at the Paducah Gaseous Diffusion Plant. Even though it's closed, they had to upgrade their radio system. And they were trying to communicate with Paducah, wanting to put some things with the county and the city, for example, the sheriff's department and some of their enforcement radios out there. But their radios, even their new radios, are not compatible with the current systems that the city of Paducah, Grant County have. So that'll be one thing you'll want to consider from any manufacturer is what kind of, and you'll hear this term, interoperability. What kind of compatibility and interoperability will you have with any system that's put in city countywide?
yeah. It seems to me that an important part of this will be the wording of the RFP, the request for services or the request for the estimate, to make sure that we're getting the right words projected so that we're getting the right bids. Steve Doolittle, how do we make sure that in what we do here tonight in saying that we'll pay for half of the RFP process, that we have some approval in the actual words before they get submitted out on the market for estimates? Is that a good question?
Critically good question.
Say that part one more time. There comes a microphone for that answer.
I'm even less than a radio expert than the experts here. But yeah, it's a critically good question. So we included in your packet the proposal for federal engineering, and I think it's $67,000 and some change to be split by the city and county, and they go through rather detailed explanation of how they're going to help you develop your bid specification, and they're going to help you evaluate those bids as well. And that's probably going to be the hardest part is getting the various bidders in. I think we're talking enough money, Neil, that there will be massive interest in this, and critically getting it evaluated against what our standards are and what our desires are.
Well, and I don't want to go back to another topic, but there was this time at band camp in which we had agreed with the city to do an RFP, and then, Bill, I think you and I were sitting in a training conference when you saw the RFP, and we had not approved the language of the RFP, and I'm curious as to how we ensure that doesn't happen again.
That when federal comes up with that draft, won't that come back to the advisory committee for our approval before it goes out?
I would hope so. Yes, that they're just not going to run off and and produce something that they think is right and send it out, I would think, very early in that process. I think we have to articulate what our decision is with regard to what percentage of coverage do we have, what is our DAQ standard, what is a whole host of interoperability rules that we think are important, and before you go to bid. The city may have already on their side have clarity of thought on that, but I don't think the county has. We're still kind of open on a number of these questions, including the issue is of joining the state system.
Should we put in our order just some words that say provided the county approves the RFP language?
I think when you pass an order and you say you're in for half, you're going to be in for half, and they're going to race off and do that. I think that you're going to have to insist on that level of control at the user group.
Okay. At the user group.
Yep.
Does that mean?
The advisory
Dr.
group
Smith
that
and
has been
I.
meeting, and been meeting, yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
And make darn sure the sheriff is read into that, so we're getting what they need.
Gotcha.
And one more thing I'd add.
Yes, sir.
If I may add this too, anything that's proposed, I would look at what's proposed, because yes, you can get something cheaper or somebody else may have something, but again, as Chief Howell mentioned, apples for apples. And I'm sure if you look at the proposals that you may want to investigate, maybe another agency, I know one agency in particular I've already been discussing with, what they've got. And you may want to make sure and look at the proposal, just because, well, yeah, we've got this system and it did this and we got this support or whatnot. Like, not only do you look at what system you got, does it fulfill the needs? Has it worked or not worked for some other agency? And also, what kind of support are you going to get from when that system goes in? What kind of time frame, if you have a site go down, if you have equipment that needs checking, what kind of time frame are you looking at for technicians' response and basically technical support and response times in those? That was one of the things that I've worked personally for many years, trying to be there in the time frames, the down times. Of course, times are changing, but we've had a shop here in town. This shop, we prided ourselves on our response times and getting here and getting it done. And so far, over the last, since 1993 for the city system, city trunking system, and for many others, we've tried to be there. In fact, somebody made the comment one time. I asked, well, what's your backup? And they said, you are. And I went, kind of step back, because if it's that important, you need a backup system. But what happens, how it works, what happens if things fail, and then how well are they repaired? We'll tell you this, the system both in the county and the city, the support ended both of those systems in 2014. So for example, the console system that the dispatchers use at Paducah 911, they're still using Windows XP, and I forget now, was it 13 or 14 when the expiration support ended on that. So the equipment is dated, and the sense of urgency is that if it fails, what will you do? So I think there should be a sense of urgency to it, because we're just a few failures away from losing communications. But that's the technician telling side of it.
Well, and I appreciate you saying those words, because those are important words for the public to hear and for us to hear.
Yeah, service while you wait. Miracles take longer. So.
Gotcha. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have a few closing comments, and I do want to express thanks to my fellow committee members on this, but if you could indulge me for just a few minutes. This is a serious issue for us economically, a lot of money, potentially $10 to $12 million for the city and the county. I remember when I first ran for office, Oscar Gamble asked me, said, don't just be a cheerleader for the things that have happened. Take time, and when there's criticism that needs to happen, offer it in a meaningful way. And I learned that in the first days of the Army, in the Army JAG school, when they said, we don't have time to tell you what you do right, we're going to tell you what you do wrong. It takes less time. So in the next few days, we'll hear a lot about what happened right in Frankfort in the last session, and a lot of things did happen right. There's a lot of things to be happy about. Downward trend in income taxes being one of them, a pass-through for building downtown, and the arts another. And I was with Bill Barlowman when he learned of that news and passed it along in Frankfort. So, but let me say this, because I think there is something that we need to do an after-action review on as a community, and we need to look at with a critical eye. I was elated when I heard on March 30th of this year that the legislature was going to approve the governor's suggestion, which he had made back in January of this year, to relieve us of our obligation to pay $6 million as a city and a county, $3 million to the city, $3 million to the county, for a federal airport grant that was going to generate 30 plus million, I think 32 million. Obviously money that we had to commit. Nobody else could have committed to it because the legislature only meets 90 days one year and 60 days the other. They weren't around to do it. To ensure that we got the federal grant, this organization and the city stepped up to the plate and said, we're good for it. But when the governor called in January to you, Judge, to say, what can the state do for you, you said it would be awesome if our one county and our one city did not have to bear the cross of a $6 million federal grant for a regional airport. We don't do that we don't have to pay more than Marshall County for the state police. We don't have to pay more than Marshall County for the road system, state road system, but we apparently do have to pay more than Marshall County, and I'm not picking on Marshall County, it's any county in the area, but we have to pay more apparently for the airport. And I think it's appropriate for our community to, yes, celebrate the wins. And, that's the job of the Chamber of Commerce. They're the rah-rah. They're supposed to celebrate the wins. But it's our job as commissioners to investigate how we could have done better as a community, and we could have done better. And I am looking for that piece of information that made it make sense for, instead of this $6 million to be taken from us, rather for the Senate, primarily the Senate, to instead say, you know what, we want to give $5.3 million, but we don't want it to give it in a way that relieves that one city and that one county of the $6 million debt. We want to do it for new things like the runway expansion or other things that would have not been vetted by these gentlemen or by the 5 city commissioners or by anybody as to being more important than 911. Neil just told us how urgent 911 was. We as a community, as a body, voted in February, suggested, spoke to Frankfort that our priority needed to be this $6 million so that we could put so if we were relieved of the airport $6 million obligation, we could use the $6 million for 911, which we know is the urgent need. As we celebrate the wins, I believe as a community, we should have the harder conversations about why the airport money was diverted away from the city and county, and why somebody stood in the way of letting the governor have his way, maybe giving the governor a win. Maybe we just didn't want to give the governor a win on this issue. But I've not yet seen an adequate reason why we did what we did, and I don't mean we, I mean we as a community. It's a situation where we could have done better And instead, the taxpayers of McCracken County and the taxpayers of the city of Paducah will be paying debt service on $6 million that they would not have. But I want to give this shout out. Bill Bartleman has been at work, and he has found another federal grant, and he's passed it along to the airport, and he's been working with people in Frankfurt and the capital trying to build support for that, and he may fix it. So thank you for your work, Bill.
We also are getting support for that grant from Congressman Comer and from Senator McConnell. They've written letters of support for that grant. It's part of the infrastructure money that was put together. It was $1 billion. It was earmarked for terminal expansion. So we have that grant out there. I also would like to comment on some of the, I think there's been a misunderstanding, and I'm getting off on the airport. I hope it's okay, Judge. But I think there's been a misunderstanding on the genesis of the governor's recommendation for the airport. In 2019, the number one priority of the Chamber of Commerce was funding for the terminal at Barkley Regional Airport. There was $20-some million that was asked for from the federal government, and it would require $10 million in local matching funds to get the federal money. And there was a request made for the state of Kentucky to come up with the $10 million of the local match so that the local governments would not have to approve that. In a forum that was held on October 3rd of 2019, Paducah was fortunate enough to host a forum of the two candidates for governor at that time. Both of the candidates for governor in 2019 pledged support for the terminal funding. And one of those who pledged support was now Governor Beshear. And he made the comment at that forum, and I'll read what his quote was at that forum. He said, "I'm going to work with you with this community and make sure that we have the $5 to $10 million that we need. It means you're all going to have a governor who shows up in Western Kentucky and in Paducah who's willing to live like you believe people should live in Western Kentucky." He pledged $5 to $10 million support. After he was elected governor, the first trip he made out of Frankfurt to make a check presentation was in February of 2020. And he came to Paducah and met his first obligation, his first commitment that he made to the Chamber of Commerce and the community of Paducah and to McCracken County, his commitment to help fund the local share of the terminal. He presented a check for $5 million. And at that event, he said he would continue to search for funds to help fund the local share of the money. In the meantime, the city and the county pledged to make up the difference of what we didn't have for the local share, but it wasn't a firm commitment, it was a last resort commitment. If we can't get funds from other grants and from other sources, there were other grants that were being sought, they're still continuing to seek federal money and other grant obligations. They talked about raising some local funds to help pay for the local share, and as it turned out, there was a determination made that any local money raised would be used for another good thing for the airport. So on January 11th, as Commissioner Jones pointed out, the governor had a press conference in Frankfurt, and he proposed an additional $6 million be earmarked for Barkley Regional Airport for the terminal construction. And because of inflation, they figured about $6 million $6 million was needed because it was conversation with the judge. The judge was involved in that press conference. He had a video clip that was given as part of the press conference where the judge, and I'll read the judge's comment in that was in the governor's press conference. Judge Clymer said, "The proposed $6 million will relieve the city and the county from the burden of using our tax revenue to cover this expense. It's not just McCracken County that benefits. The entire region will be stronger and more vibrant. Our neighbors in Graves and Marshall counties and nearby communities are 1 month past a massive tornado. They're building back from near devastation, and as they build their communities back, we will build this new terminal, bring great prosperity and development into all of Western Kentucky." So it was clear at that time that money proposed by the governor, wasn't just a whim, it was a two-pronged commitment from him. He made a commitment in 2019 that he would fund the local share of the terminal, And then when he called talked to Judge Clymer reminded him that this was a great burden that we were facing with the city and the county to have to come up with those funds. There was no recommendation, there was no request of the legislature for the 2022 session for any funding for the airport. So this was just a follow-up from the governor, from his previous commitment, from his conversation. The governor proposed this. The airport did not come up and say, we've got 4 or 5 projects that we need to fund, and we need another 5.3 or 5 or $6 million. When the governor first made that announcement, we all obviously were excited. It seemed like it had a good chance of going through. There was some resistance from some other leadership in the community, from some of the legislators. They said, well, the funding won't be available, and there was some, I won't say it's opposition, but there was a lot of pessimism about it, and by some of the other leaders in the community. And the fiscal court, Commissioner Jones and I went to Frankfurt. There was a chamber event in Frankfurt where they go every year to lobby for projects. Commissioner Jones and I went up 2 days early, and we spent a day. We talked to everybody from Robert Stivers to all our local legislators and others, and we lobbied for funding for the terminal project, which was the greatest need in this community, a great need that was identified by the Chamber of Commerce in 2019 that still wasn't resolved in 2022. And we got some commitments. If it comes up, if your legislators propose this, we'll support that. So we got support for that. And I was in constant communication with some of our legislators, with Stephen Rudy, who is the majority leader in the House. I was in constant communication with him, and others were too. And he said they were working on it. At one point, he said, if you keep asking me, I'm not going to do it. We're working on it. Just trust me. So,
you can be bad about that.
And I understand that. But anyway, but we got commitments that they would put funding in there for the airport. So I got on the last night of the regular legislative session, I got a text from Majority Leader Rudy, who said the money's in there for the airport, and I was all excited. I contacted Commissioner Jones and the other members of the fiscal court. Commissioner Jones, right? We all were excited. We're going to be relieved of this money. And then we had another legislator, our senator, said you can't use the money for the terminal. We're going to use it for other projects proposed by the airport. Well, where did that come from? And I won't go into all the communication we had, but it was kind of disappointing that they came up with 4 or 5 different projects that, as Commissioner Jones mentioned, had not previously been vetted in any way. There had not been any proposals that we need state money for these projects. There was just an effort there was a lot of pressure on the legislators to approve money for the airport, but we can all speculate on why they didn't want to fund the terminal. And Commissioner Jones referred to maybe they just didn't want the governor to have credits, but they wanted to get their own credit for other projects. So the background of this, it just didn't come out of the blue. It's all, obviously, everything that happens ties to it. The governor obviously had some political motivation for it. The political motivation was going to benefit this community, benefits the taxpayers of this community, and benefit us because we free up money instead of using it for the airport. That's 60% of the airport traffic, I think, is from outside McCracken County. We can use that money to 100% of the money benefit
job in certain communities, that sort of thing. And the issue of political party plays a role in some things. I can honestly say that I'm not aware of any decision we've ever made or even had any, it was ever even a factor in our consideration on anything we undertook to do for our county or in our positions that involved partisan politics in any way. You have to get up into the state level, and certainly the federal level is just, I mean, it's just out of control. But I think it's one thing that we can be proud of, that we are, and not that it's a great accomplishment. I mean, that's the way it should be. And so it's not like we're, any great accomplishment, I suppose, but we adhere to the fact that we just do what we can for the county, and we don't consider is it good for the Democrats, the Republicans, or independents.
Well, I've been a Republican activist since 1994, and I won't stop. But on this issue, it shouldn't be a party issue. Our duty is to the taxpayers of McCracken County and the taxpayers of Paducah. And the bottom line is we're having to pay more than our share for what is a regional project that should have been, and the governor wanted to be funded by the state.
All right.
Sir, do you wish that order read?
Yes.
It is ordered that the McCracken County Fiscal Court agrees to pay to Federal Engineering 1/2 of the expected cost for the preparation of bid specifications and evaluation services for a new digital 800 megahertz radio system. The anticipated cost is $67,790, with 1/2 being $33,895, subject to further orders of the court.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. I guess I wasn't real clear. Have we made the firm decision, Neil and Dr. Smith, that this would be 800 megahertz? That's decided? Or might it be could be 700?
Specs it out at, whatever they propose. If they want to be compatible with the state police, I think the 700-800 megahertz system is what the state police.
Should we take out the 800?
You could put 700-800 in there.
Well, we could say for a new digital radio system.
Digital radio system.
Would that cover it?
That should.
I'll make that motion. We amend the order to take out 800 megahertz and just say a new digital radio system.
Okay, is there a second on that?
Second.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. All right, now, so we're taking out, the motion then is for a new digital radio system, including the other language there. So, any discussion on that? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That carries. All right. We got Flora Hall on for discussion. Stevie, I didn't alert you. I'd be calling on you on this. I know you're prepared. Steve Irvin is, of course, our project manager among many other things, and he's been leading the charge on the renovations of Flora Hall located inside Carson Park. What are you going to say?
Well, the renovations that started in March they're substantially complete. There are 2 more items that need to be done. One is electrical upgrades and some plumbing upgrades, but the interior in general is complete. There's been approximate $15,000 in upgrades. That includes new interior paint, 2 coats on everything, new wainscoting, dimmable hanging lights, stage improvements, updated handicap accessible restrooms. A quick note, the McCracken County inmates over a 5-week period provided probably 500 hours of labor in the renovation of the structure. Very, very helpful. I think these renovations, they will increase the use for different types of venues in the structure, especially wedding. It does seat over 400 people. It's a lot better condition now for those types of venues. Chad Byer with I-5 Design early on in the process provided us some design guidance for colors. Atlas Roofing installed the wainscoting, and per the judge's help, Lowe's was very nice to generate a lot of paint to this project, and a local union is going to be providing some of the plumbing service. So it's been a good project, almost finished.
Good job.
Excellent. Yeah, my brother won't appreciate this, but my niece is getting married, and he's just told me that he's paid several $1,000s for a barn, to rent a barn for a weekend.
This is a little bit cheaper than that.
Yeah. Ours only rents for, what, $600 a day?
I think right now it's 500.
Yeah, so, I mean, Steve's been outstanding in pushing that, and I can recall going in there, I was, I don't remember why we even went out there for something. I guess it was just to take a look at the building. I hadn't seen it in many years, long before I took this position. I was elected to this position, and we opened the door, looked around there, and this is an 1880s built barn. The cool thing about it to me is that it was used to sell livestock inside of the barn, concrete floor barn, and it's got a wooden walkway. You go up steps on the end. Well, we got the pictures there. You'll see your photographs on the end. Or you can go up to the walkway that's, I don't know, 9 feet or something, maybe high, somewhere 8, 9 feet. So the potential buyers, they could run the goats, sheep, whatever, in there, and they could stand up on the walkway and pick out what they wanted to purchase. So it's got a lot of history, and I looked at it, I said, man, we've got a gym here, GEM gym, that we really, I think, have an obligation to try to make it what its potential is. And so I told both Steve, Doolittle and Irvin, both, I believe, were there, and let's do this. Let's see what we can do in, I think I said 7 weeks, I believe, within 2 months. To get here, let's get inmate labor, let's see if we can make it nice, but consistent with a 1880s barn. I didn't want to go in and put sheetrock. I didn't want it to be a chandelier place, and maybe it couldn't be, but to just make it much nicer. The bathrooms were just horrible, and so we got those fixed up. We had some help from our local 184 plumber steam fitters. We had some electricians from the IBEW come out and looked at the lighting and helped us some with that. And Keith Merck came out, Merck-Co. The concrete floors had cracks and gaps, toe stumpers, and got him to come in and smooth that out and make it nice. Put bright paint in there, left the old stage that's, I don't know if it's from 1880s, looks like it is, but preserving the historic appearance of the barn. And so, it's going to be a nice venue, and it's going to be particularly timely, I think, because we've seen that the city of Paducah is in the process of renovating the Cherry Civic Center. That was a low-cost venue for people who just didn't want to spend a lot of money, either couldn't afford it or they just didn't want to spend a lot on a venue. They're renovating that, putting some offices in it, so it's going to lessen the size and make it perhaps not quite as suitable for this sort of thing. And so we'll be able to offer this at a similar price. I think a much more attractive venue personally, and it'll be pretty cool, I think, to have it in Carson Park. I think Luther Carson will be proud of what we've done. Maybe his family will. So I'm telling the guys today, why don't we just roll that out this Saturday, do a little open house thing. We're kind of putting together plans, probably like 11 to 1 this Saturday. Did we get a hold of the folks, the petting zoo people?
Yes, and they're not available this Saturday.
Oh, they're not. Okay. Yeah. Well, I can run Otis Lee, my dog, out there. You got your Labrador.
Wilson.
Wilson, you can bring your cat. But, I want to contact some people that board horses out there. I also know a fair number of people who ride, and I have a horse, but I'm not going to try to get on her for various reasons. But get some people out there. Maybe we can have a little kind of a Western Day sort of thing, and have some snacks, whatever, and just break that out. And I think we'll see that it'll be a good venue. I didn't really want it to compete with. I'm very conscious of government competing with private enterprise, and so I don't believe that this venue at $500 a day is going to compete with maybe no other, but very few, if any, other venues for weddings and parties and that sort of thing. But it's just really, if you see the beforehand and you see what it is now, it's just, it's really a great accomplishment, I think. And I don't know, what was our final total on cost?
At this point, we're under $15,000. I'm not sure the exact amount.
A little under $15,000 for getting that done. That's quite a value to get all that work done in that building and make it that nice. We'll recover that in a short time, I think, from use of the thing. And yeah, I won't talk all night, but it was. We were standing out there looking at it, and I said, what's that stuff called where you put the tin up on the roof? And they said it's called wainscoting. I said that'd be kind of cool for an old barn like this, and it'd save on paint if we could find some of that. And so look over there where they're tearing down barn 5. Guess what's all laying down on the ground?
A lot of wainscot.
A lot of wainscot. And a bunch of trim wood over there. And so Steve was able to, the guy that was tearing down barn 5 donated that material because he was just going to get salvage cost out of it.
And he donated the lumber from Bluegrass Downs for the stage, too.
Oh, okay.
A couple pallets of wood. So
Yeah, so he was really helpful to us. And so using that inmate labor, those guys, some of them, there's people over here that have skills and some that don't, but painting and doing the kind of things they're able to use them. They were very glad to get out of jail for the time we used them, and they learned some trades and learned some skills, organization, various things. So it's a win for us, I think. So appreciate all you did on it.
Yes, sir.
Let's see, we need to get moving, don't we? Let's see, we got Daniel Phelps here, McCracken County Soil Conservation. Come on up, Daniel. There's a Phelps Farm Service right down there. That wouldn't happen to be. Have you ever heard of that place down
I think
here?
I know a little something about it, yes.
See,
There's help in your name.
Sir?
There's help in your name.
There is. Somebody listens to the ad anyway. It's wonderful. It's always good to get good feedback. I'll have to tell my daughter about that. She's our ad person. She'll love that. But we come tonight from the Soil Conservation Board, and we just want to I'd just like to say that it looks like the Soil Conservation District is a pretty good bonus or pretty good buy for the county. We spend y'all invest about $25,000 in the Soil Conservation Board. Last year, we distributed about $330,000 out into the county in development funds and things that come from the federal government. We had funds that were used by farmers from the tobacco program, about $90,000 through children that were involved in that, $10,000, $80,000 for new projects to help offset the tobacco income in our county. We also distributed about $230,000 worth of environmental funds, and this was when you look out at that creek that's running by your house, most of the time it's very clear. And a lot of that has to do with the work that the Soil Conservation District has done through the federal government, through the state government. But we implement it on the county level, and that's what comes through there. So we also have we help with education in environmental issues, and we do that. We provide scholarships to people that are interested in agriculture and to help them move on into agriculture. And we also have some no-till drills that are used to help seed some areas of the county in a way that helps prevent erosion and helps promote good crop growth. So we do that, and we have 16 ag districts that may become more important than we think, as we notice that we're having something. We kind of know how Ukraine feels about encroaching.
Absolutely.
But the ag districts can be used for that.
So the ag district, your organization manages the ag districts in
Yes,
that you receive the application to designate land as an ag.
Yes, sir.
Ag, we're using ag, it's an agriculture
Yes,
district,
sir.
right?
Yes, sir.
And once land is designated in an agriculture district, and I think it requires at least 250 acres,
Yes, sir.
that land cannot be annexed.
Yes, sir. That's right. Unless the person that owns the land wants it to be.
Yeah,
Now,
they can choose, it's their
yes,
option, but it can't be forced on them.
It's not a binding thing, but as long as they want to stay in the ag district, they can stay in it. And there's no cost to the people. There's no cost for anything other than the ink that it takes us to fill out the forms.
And just in case anyone,
Yes, sir.
this is where
Go
I'm
right
raising
ahead.
my eyebrows.
Go right ahead.
Anyone's listening. So that 250 acres doesn't have to be owned by the same person.
No, sir.
It could be,
It's contiguous.
Conti-
Has to be touched.
has to be 250 acres that's contiguous.
Yes, sir.
And it has to be at least 10 acres.
Yes, sir.
Parcels.
In a spot. Yes, sir. In a plot. And that we have some that have 15 or 20 people in them. We have some that have 3. We have a couple that just have 1 or 2. We have 16 districts in the county now, and we're in the process of reviewing those and renewing them. Most of them have been renewed a couple of times, and now we're up doing that now. That's part of our ongoing work each year.
And if somebody had interest in forming one, it's just a one-page application, and
Yes,
you
sir.
attach your deed.
Yes, sir.
And you've got to establish that the land has an agriculture use.
Yes, sir. It's just fairly simple. If you or your neighbors want to form one, you can get together, bring it, call the ag district. We'll get you the paperwork, get it all worked out for you. Be happy to help you. Our secretary and people there will be glad to do that. That's a very one of our really most rewarding experiences is the ag districts. They really help. Also, they level the taxation and then the zoning too that you are in. So it helps that.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Any questions?
Thank you.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Daniel. All right, and item 5, tabled from previous meeting.
It is ordered that the bid of Guardian RFID for the RFID scanning system for the McCracken County Jail is accepted and awarded. Said bid was in the amount of $58,667.60 plus installation and annual maintenance.
All right, we got somebody, Steve. Are you addressing that, Steve? Come on.
Sir, is there a motion and second to open the floor for discussion?
I'll make such a motion.
Second.
All right, got a motion second. Yeah, Steve.
So the other night, renegotiated the price on the annual fees, and it was the $16,995, and now that is $10,200.
10,000, what, 200?
200, yes, sir.
You got them down $6,700, $800.
Mhm.
I guess I'm confused. So it says 58,000. What?
There was another piece to it about ongoing maintenance or something,
Yes.
some annual costs that you guys
At the
had
time the
questioned.
original order was on the agenda, Jailer Knight was not aware yet of an exact amount for the plus installation and annual maintenance.
I see.
Yes.
Those were the questions Commissioner Bartleman had, and I believe now they have those answered.
We've got that.
So the annual maintenance is 10,200,
Yes, sir.
and how much was the installation?
6,957.
And how long do we have a contract on the maintenance for?
For 4 years. And then I got with Sam today and spoke with him about that, and we can terminate that at any time.
But if we terminate it, then it's useless.
Only
right?
thing that we have to pay is what has been done. We don't have to. Sam, you want to speak on that, what I said earlier?
Yeah, the primary objection in that contract was the lack of mutuality of the obligations, where the outfit Guardian were able to terminate the contract on unilateral terms as they see fit, but we didn't have the same right. And then also Guardian was, not only could they terminate the contract based on terms as they see fit and dictate to us, but if that were to happen, then Guardian could accelerate all of what the payments that were due and owing, or not due and owing, would become due and owing. And so we would have to, upon their decision to terminate, pay up the extent of everything we owed in the contract, and we'd have to go to Minnesota to litigate it. So we eradicated those provisions.
Good lawyer.
If we were to terminate the contract, can we still use the equipment?
What's that, sir?
If the contract were to be terminated, can we still use the equipment? Or is the scanner useless without the contract, maintenance
Yeah, it would
contract?
basically be useless without that contract.
Yeah, I think that's written in there where it's the intellectual property obviously belongs to Guardian, but then the software, hardware, also upon termination it goes back. I think that hardware is a part and parcel to any contract.
Yes.
So any other provider is going to provide that
Yes.
as well.
It just seemed like that was awful high, the annual contract for maintenance was 20% of the total cost of it just seemed like it was awful high annual maintenance fee for it.
And that's the one, David got that one down, didn't he?
Yes.
That was cut in half?
Yes.
Okay. I didn't really get into the numbers too much, it was just more of the specifics of the contract.
You feel comfortable
It'll
with it?
be a great tool for us.
You feel comfortable with it now?
Joe.
I am now, indeed.
Just so the contract that we're signing actually have the documentation of what the amount of the annual maintenance
Yes.
installation is. So
Yes.
future fiscal courts will know whether it's going
Yes.
up or not. Okay.
And also, this is for the safety and security of the facility, so this doesn't have to be done with tax dollars. It can be done with commissary.
We like that.
Yes. Sir.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, thank you. All right, any other discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That carries. Court orders?
It is ordered to approve the April transient room tax in the amount of $395,625.71 to be dispersed as follows. Paducah CVB, $116,402.58. Convention Center, $78,873.78. Sports Tourism Commission, $120,211.13. Escrow Fund, $80,138.22.
So move.
Second.
Any discussion?
Come back up.
Going back up? What was it? You see?
Yeah, I don't have it in front of me, but it seems like we had dipped below 100,000 last month, so we're back over 100.
All right.
Well over.
All right, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. D, well, wait a minute. B,
It is ordered that the amount of $58,766.66 be paid to Bill Dunn, McCracken County Property Valuation Administrator, same being the third and final installment of the county's statutory obligation to the PVA for fiscal year 2021-2022, based on certified assessment.
So made.
Second.
Any discussion? I just feel compelled to just mention very briefly that the folks need to understand that the property assessments are the responsibility of the state and not the county, that the county does not assess the value of property, and so we don't send or we don't calculate the amount of the value of the property. So people have been receiving those assessments. Of course, as we know, the previous PVA was, to say the very least, slack on doing the job, and so a lot of these properties were not assessed for many years, decade or more. And so some of the assessments did jump up because if your property hadn't been assessed for 10 years, and in theory, real property generally evaluates, not devaluates. And so that might explain why if people got an assessment that was higher than they expected, it's because they were not paying the fair market value required by state law for a decade, for what that's worth. Did we vote yet?
No, sir.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That carries.
It is ordered to pay $7,502.22 to the Kentucky Emergency Management for recoupment of FEMA funds related to Project DR-1818, 2009 ice storm.
So made.
Second.
Discussion.
2009 ice storm.
I take it we're going to get an explanation on this.
About a month or 6 weeks ago, State Emergency Management sent a long list of previously closed disaster aid packages that stretched back a lot of years and asked us to review them and provide them with information. April found stuff in the courthouse, in the county garage, at EOC. It was everywhere. And I think they reviewed 5 or 6 different disasters. So a disaster happens in the county. For the most part, ours were flood. There was the ice storm in 2009. And we respond to the disaster locally. We submit under the rules of emergency management and FEMA what's eligible for reimbursement. The state looks at that, approves that, and then writes us a check for that. Well, they did a secondary review on a bunch of them, and they decided in 2009 they overpaid the county $7,502, and they want their money back.
Do you agree with that?
I don't know if I do or don't. We are close partners with the state, and they provide us with a lot of resources, and they're convinced we owe them. If you remember, the ice storm here and the response to it was beleaguered by a lot of ineligible expenses. When I saw that one, I thought we could see a lot here. And it centered on, Pam, you're going to have to help remind me, it had to do with some payment to one of the volunteer fire departments, Lone Oak Fire Department.
Something about volunteer time or something.
That the volunteer time had not been properly calculated for reimbursement.
So better to pay it and go on.
I think so, yes.
Okay.
Well, we got the use of the money for 13 years. Yeah.
True. Didn't think about it that way, but that is true.
We want them around for the next emergency.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That carries. D?
It is ordered to pay Paducah McCracken County Riverport Authority $100,000 for the required match approved by the Fiscal Court on May 10th, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
So this is good money, right? This means we got a grant, and we got to pay our share because we're getting more.
Yeah, so this was one of those port grants. That
Not
this,
port, but port.
Port, not pork, P-O-R-T, port development grants that they applied for. It was kind of a long shot thing. Tim Cahill did a great job with it, and they got the notice of award, and the city and county each agreed to provide the match at $100,000. So, so this will get it out of this budget and done. We're eager to get this one paid.
So the total capture of dollars, we're paying $100,000, and we're capturing, I'll use the word capturing.
Oh, shoot. And Tim sent that to me.
More than $1 million?
It's in that neighborhood.
About $1 million?
Yeah.
Are we paying that out of the general fund or out of our economic development fund?
Paid it out of the general fund.
Okay.
All right.
Yep. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That carries.
It is ordered that resolution number R 2022-06, adopting and approving the execution of a county road aid cooperative program agreement between the McCracken County Fiscal Court and the Commonwealth of Kentucky Transportation Cabinet Department for Rural and Municipal Aid for the fiscal year beginning July 2022 be approved.
So move.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That carries.
It is ordered that Mickey Talley is reappointed to the Concord Fire Department Board to serve a term beginning July 1, 2022 and expiring on June 30th, 2025, subject to further orders of the court.
So made.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That carries.
It is ordered that Kyle Lotta is appointed to the Concord Fire Department Board, replacing Karen Conyers, to serve a term beginning July 1, 2022 and expiring on June 30th, 2025, subject to further orders of the court.
So made.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That carries.
It is ordered that Maggie Moore is reappointed to the Senior Citizens Board to serve a term beginning July 1, 2022 and expiring on June 30th, 2025, subject to further orders of the court.
So made.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That carries.
It is ordered that Cindy Mangrum is reappointed to the Senior Citizens Board to serve a term beginning July 1, 2022 and expiring on June 30th, 2025, subject to further orders of the court.
So made.
Second.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That carries. We have any need for an executive session? One no. Well, you want?
Yeah.
Want to hear about it?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Let me get my cheat sheet here. All right, so it's a motion to move to executive session to discuss a specific proposal by a business entity where public discussion of the subject matter would jeopardize the location, retention, expansion, or upgrading of a business entity as permitted by KRS 618101G. Could possibly fall under also future sale or acquisition of a specific parcel of real estate as permitted by KRS 618101B.
First and second.
So made.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That carries. And then we won't be taking any action. We'll go on and do the motion to adjourn following our return from executive session. Second on that.
Second.
All in favor, aye. Opposed, no. That carries. So we'll go into executive session. When we come back out, we'll just adjourn. Won't be any further action. If anybody would like to do something more stimulating than this, if you can so find anything.